There's a whole
what's the policy on cursing?
Curse.
Go for it.
Oh, I'm gonna curse so much.
We started off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and now we're just don't care.
Good. Get fucked, FCC. Also, sorry, YouTube.
You don't have a standards council to police you now.
I only ever had one standards council hearing in my whole career, so I think we're fine.
Just one. That's good.
Most people don't have any. You only get a standards council when you get a complaint. And yes. I had, what the hell was my complaint about?
We're live on Facebook too, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't remember anymore. This was like 5 years ago, and I'm a space cadet.
Oh.
Even though I'm not a D&D player, I miss your D&D segment on the radio.
I miss being employed, so thank you.
So
we could use instructors at BCIT.
Huh?
We could use an instructor.
Well. Oh no, I'm pretty sure I'm leaving broadcasting, but that is that's.
Do you know what step is next at this point then?
Yeah, I had a job interview this week that I'm really hopeful for. Fingers crossed. They were calling my references on Friday, so I feel like when they get into calling your references, that's usually a pretty good sign.
Yep. I would fully agree with that.
Yeah, so we'll wait until hopefully I'll find out for sure on Monday. It's in social services, so that would be cool. Yeah. But I'm also going to be teaching communications at Bow Valley College in the winter, so that's fun.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's fun. So, no, man, it's good. I'm excited. Fingers crossed. I'm mostly excited to be here and shit on Jacob Markstrom and how that's a bad signing for Calgary. So,
I love that we're gonna argue.
Oh God, it's gonna turn out so badly, and I can't wait.
Oh, I can't wait to argue. I'm gonna wait till.
Hold on, guys. I have to answer a phone call from my boss.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, look at me. I'm Chris. I'm employed. Oh, I need to take a phone call. Oh, I know. I am aware.
Second week in a row, Chris is getting absolutely shit on by the guest.
I'm not. I shit because I love. That sounds bad.
All right. We're just waiting for the links to all Sean to do the tweeting.
There we go.
Once that's done, we go. Are we?
We can go.
All right. We are live. I forgot today was Halloween until I realized today was Halloween. So happy Halloween. I am dressed up as a good-looking guy, so that may scare some of you. But welcome to the Hockey Podcast. I'm Kevin Olenek. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey. You can...
Sorry, guys. There's electrical issues happening at the South Store location, so I have to quickly try and put out a fire via phone calls. So can you guys give me 5 minutes? Or,
sure.
Actually, you know what? You guys start. I'll jump in later, just like Dev is.
Okay, so that's Chris. Chris is off to save the world. He'll be back.
Because he's employed. Oh, look at me.
Yeah, Chris has a job.
Sorry.
It must be nice having one of those.
Yeah. Okay. You can subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter, podcast_hockey. Instagram, podcast_hockey. Find the Hockey Podcast wherever you like your podcast. That's Chris. There's Tyler. Hello. Tyler is also employed.
Yeah. It's been
It could also get pulled away at some point.
Yeah. Well, it's not my turn for the on-call rotation, and it's not snowing, so we should be okay. But it's starting to get a little wintry here in Terrace, so the anxiety levels are peaking at times. Let's just say, it's too bad that Chris had to talk there, because I thought, Kevin, you were really like crushing your intro there. And
yes,
he just deflated it.
I know.
Oh, Chris.
Oh well, it's okay.
Chris.
There's Tyler. There's Sean. Hello, Sean.
We kicked.
Hello. Yeah. We'll just continue this shitty on Chris brigade here. It's just everything to do with timing is not Chris's forte. So I'm not surprised that he managed to have a poor timing on that.
My question. Here's my question. So the wedding is November. The wedding.
Yeah, November 7th.
Yeah, November 7th. Do we need to remind him on November 7th that that's the wedding?
It'd probably
Like,
be
should
a
we
good
legitimately tweet him out on November 7th and say this is the time of the wedding?
Well, if you're gonna do that, you have to tell him 2 hours beforehand. Like the wedding starts at 5, but you tell him it starts at 3.
Okay.
That way he actually shows up on time.
I feel like I need to stick up for a fellow procrastinator here, because like, look, sometimes life is difficult and things get in the way.
That's fair. That's Graham Oseman. How are you?
I'm good, Kev. Thanks, nerds, for having me on. Oh man, even in the midst of this, it feels like there's this barren hockey wasteland at the moment, pretty much until the World Juniors. So thank you for having me be a part of this, even as a dirty Oilers fan. It's lovely and it's nice.
It's okay. Devin is coming on. He's a dirty Leafs fan, so we'll we accept all of that. We will get into. It sounds like we're going to have an argument about Jacob Markstrom.
Yes, and how that's a terrible signing for Calgary, and I'm happy about it.
We'll have that argument. I do also we have to talk about the Oilers here. Obviously, we're going to have a rant on OHL hockey and how that's going to look, because that's fun. And we'll talk about Isaiah Meyer Crothers, a name not mentioned enough this week. But it's brunch and drinks, so I'm going to let Sean handle. What are we drinking?
Oh, I'm enjoying a nice coffee this week. As just like Chris said off air, had a little bit of a Halloween fun last night, so the coffee is very much something that is needed today. And for me, I just I like my coffee black, just like my soul. And I'm lucky enough to be able to have a couple really good roasteries here in Calgary. And I've got a coffee subscription with one of them, Rosso. And so every week I get a bag of coffee delivered and get to enjoy good coffee, which is for me is the one of the luxuries that I always try and have in my life. So a nice good coffee, as opposed to just whether it's Timmy's or McDonald's or whatever your choice of fast food coffee is. That's not me. I like my really good, nice small batch roasted coffee.
I feel judged.
You should.
Well, I got the brew at home Tim Horton stuff here too, Kev. Yeah. So I'm with you.
It's like, I don't know. I've never really been a smoker, but it's like, I imagine it's like smoking cigarettes. It tastes terrible, but you're used to the taste, and everything else is different. I don't know. Yeah.
If we're comparing Tim Hortons coffee to cigarettes, I think, are we talking like hand rolled prison darts? Like, what's the what are we going with here?
Hand rolled.
Oh, yes. Poor Timmy's.
Oh, they're owned by a Brazilian company. They're not even Canadian anymore.
We don't have any competing coffee companies sponsoring this podcast. So just so we're clear.
And the idea of us getting Tibbs to sponsor this podcast just went.
Yeah, that's gone. Out of here.
Hi, I'm the guest this week.
Well, for me, I'm the snob with anything that I like to drink. So whether it is coffee or beer or anything like that, it's always I know I'm a snob with that. So I do like to make sure that I'm willing to spend a little bit more money to have the quality. So that's why I like having the coffee subscription for myself and Heidi, just because it gets delivered every Monday. and we're always like a week behind, so we always have an extra bag of coffee for emergencies, and that's always a good thing.
Fair. Graham, what are you drinking?
Yeah, I'm also on the coffee train. I don't drink the booze, but I do drink a large amount of coffee. So this morning I had brewed myself. Oh God, I just bought this really bougie coffee machine from the Bay because fuck me up with Bay days, man. I just spent a lot of money on a coffee machine that was pretty big off. So yeah, I ran over to Roastery earlier this week. Great little coffee roaster here in Calgary. And picked myself up a pound of their dark Guatemalan blend, which is pretty good. I think it was like $19 a pound. So like, yeah, a little bit more expensive. But oh man, with that and the new coffee maker, it's just it's perfect.
I think also for me too, like around here, I mean, it's part simplicity, but like around where I'm at Burnaby, I don't think that there's really any cool roastery stuff so much. So I'd have to go into Vancouver. Like that sounds terrible. Like it's one SkyTrain stop away, but it's a bit of way to get actually good coffee. Chris is back.
Hello.
We were talking about you. So do we need to tweet you a reminder that your wedding's on November 7th? On November 7th, Sean was saying that might be a good idea, because you and time are not always connected.
I remember things. I'm just not on time for things.
That's what I said. You got to tell them 2 hours before things start.
Okay, so your wedding's at 3.
There's a couple of guys I play hockey with that are like that too. If the game's at 8:45, it's at 8:15 for them, just to make sure that they're there.
Yep, that's
ready
me.
to go.
Hey,
Most definitely me.
dude, Terry needs a new pack of chew for the first period. Okay, it's not his fault.
What are you drinking, Chris?
Water, because I'm hungover.
Fair enough. All right. So in 2020, weeks seem like 2 weeks. So the first thing that we're going to discuss feels like it happened 2 weeks ago. But it was a pretty significant thing. It was the passing of Joey Moss. And we have another visitor. Come on in. Hello.
There he is.
This is Devin. Hello, Devin.
Hey guys.
How's
Here's
it
the
going?
Dirty Leafs fan.
It's the Dirty Leafs fan, as Graham called himself a Dirty Oilers fan.
Well, normally that sounds terrible coming from Sean's mouth, but if it's coming from Graham, I'm okay.
Aw, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, no problem.
And what are you drinking?
I've water.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes.
Water
Am I
bottle
supposed
wins.
Got a couple of responsible people here. That's good.
So
should I get beer?
no.
No, unless you want.
So Devin, we're just getting into started the topics. The first topic we're going to discuss is Joey Moss. Graham, I guess we'll start with you. What did Joey Moss mean for Edmonton, the Oilers fans, the Edmonton football team? Kind of tell us from your perspective. Tell us about Joey Moss.
So, so Joey Moss, I'm 28, and Joey Moss has been a fixture of the Edmonton. I don't want to say just sports community, but just the city of Edmonton, for literally my entire life. The story's been well told when he was just a kid, and his sister was dating Wayne, and Wayne saw Joey going back and forth from, I think it was a laundromat at these just awful hours of the day, and petitioned the team to give him a job, and to see Joey behind the bench at almost every single Oilers home game, singing the anthem with a sense of enthusiasm that I think any of us would want to emulate one day. He became such a symbol of perseverance, of respect, of integrity, and really a sense of stick-to-itiveness that especially in the 80s and 90s, there was still a lot of disregard and disrespect for people who were differently abled, as Joe was. So when you have someone who becomes such a feature in the locker room, both for the Oilers and the Double E football team, with everything from helping from equipment to just meeting people to I was in the locker room when I was a student at NAIT. We got to do practices one day and do some interviews, and Joe would come in and say very forcefully, 5-minute warning, and then everyone has to get out. And it was just, nope, that's Joe, and that's what you do. So for him being kind of an icon, especially for the differently abled community, as a kind of show of you can really do anything, I think was really important. I only met him once, and I was just a kid, and it was at the roast of Brian Hall, who's a famed Edmonton broadcaster. Was the voice of the Double E for a very long time, and the roast for his 50 year in broadcasting. And I bumped into this guy, and it was Joey Moss, and I was wearing an Oilers bow tie, and I was, I don't know, 9, maybe 10, and we had a really quick conversation. And I came back to the table and sat down, and I was like, I just met Joey Moss. And he just, every time I saw him interact with someone, it was in a way that was with love and respect and excitement. And you only need to just listen to some of the interviews and listen to 6-3 Chet in Edmonton the night he passed away, did a really incredible, just constant run of people sharing stories about Joe. And the emotional impact he had as a pillar of Edmonton, cannot be understated for what he meant to the sports and just the community in that city.
Does anyone have any thoughts before I ask questions, or? No. Okay, I'll keep going. So I'll bring this up. I know it's great that Edmonton is doing stuff too. They want to. I've saw a petition for a school. I've saw some other things, but to me, I would like to see him in the Hockey Hall of Fame. I think that the argument that whoever gets into the Hall of Fame is one of the arguments that was brought up with Kevin Lowe was you can't tell the story of hockey without him, and I don't think you can tell the story of the Oilers without Joey Moss. I think his contributions to Special Olympics and the hockey community has been vast, and I would like to see him in the Hockey Hall of Fame. I don't know how you do that. I don't know what category you put him in.
Builder.
But I think that there's a reasonable argument for this.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Kev. Normally, I think you go a little over the top with the wanting to show all these different people, put them into the Hall of Fame in some way. But I agree with you on this one. Right now, the only one that would make sense is Builder. I would love to see another category come in, and we start to show the story of hockey and the story of people that aren't necessarily aren't players or aren't management of some or coaching of some sort, because that's in what, especially in today's day and age, where hockey for legit reasons gets shit on for the culture and everything that's wrong with it. There's a lot of stuff that's really good with it, and we need to celebrate that, and we need to find a way to do that. That doesn't, I want to say that separates it out from everything else, and we celebrate it for the community that it brings together, and everything that Joey Moss has done, and everything that he stands for, and everything that you see with everyone who has been in contact with him, whether was the Edmonton football team or the Oilers, or any Special Olympics, or basically anyone who was able to lucky enough to know him, and you see the impact he's made, and we really need to find a way to show the good that hockey can do. And we need to find a way to separate it out from everything else and make it stand on its own. So I think it was, like I said, right now the only spot that would make sense currently is builder, but I want to see them separated out, and he should be honored just like anyone else in the player or builders category, but with another category. And we celebrate the people that have made hockey culture and hockey the hockey community better, because it's the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's not the NHL Hall of Fame. It's not anything like that. It's the Hockey Hall of Fame. So it should be celebrating more than just players and builders that played in the NHL or worked in the NHL or even international hockey, because they're starting to do that. And then as well as the women. We need to be able to show the community aspect. One of the hometown hockey is doing amazing job with that, showing the community aspect, and I think we really need to take that to the next level. And there is no one better to start that movement with than Joey Moss.
I would be open to calling it a Joey Moss category. Actually, name it after him. Anyway, sorry, Tyler.
I think the builder category works just well for him. I mean, he was a team employee, very quite visible too. Like for somebody that only watched Oilers games in a casual fashion when they're on, say, Hockey Night in Canada, or they happen to be playing the Canucks, the number of times you saw him on the telecast and the way others around him were reacting to the guy, and if he ever got on the big screen and getting the crowd reactions going, and then same thing with football games, the odd time you see him on the sidelines, it's just for a guy in his position with a sports team to have such visibility across the sport is something that was pretty amazing. So when we heard the news about his passing, was obviously pretty deflating, and just another piece of bad news in a difficult year for a lot of people.
Evan, Chris, did you have anything to?
Yeah, I would love to see him in the Hockey Hall of Fame. I think trailblazing, the discrimination towards special needs people, and in a time that was not very welcoming and maybe not as knowledgeable. People weren't as knowledgeable towards people with Down syndrome or any other special disability. So I think that he definitely deserves to be in there, whether or not it's a builder, whether or not it's either way, he just needs to be celebrated for who he was as a person and what he did and what he meant, not just to the Edmonton Oilers, but to the hockey and CFL universe.
Yeah, I feel like everything I'm going to say has probably already been said at this point, but yeah, he clearly had a huge impact in Edmonton for both the football team as well as the Oilers. He like everyone else has already said, he needs to be celebrated. I think that he'd be deserving to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame as well. We definitely just need to, like Devin just said, celebrate his life and his legacy.
Okay. Settled. I got something right. There we go. Let's talk about the Oilers. Graham, what's going on with the Oilers?
Oh man, I mean, where do you start? I guess you guys have we've run through a lot of this through the free agency period. I think by any noticeable metric in the skating roster of this team, the Oilers are a better team than they were last year. By my money and my estimation, again, it's all very you are looking at paper. You don't know how teams are going to mix, but for parts of last year, the Oilers bottom six, which was the clear weakness on the team. You largely had a team that without McDavid or Draisaitl on the ice did not score, full stop. And this year now with the expansion of the roster and having a very tangible possible third line with players like Jesse Puljujarvi, who's now back in the fold, whose estimated NHL numbers are pretty good. If you pull them over from Finland, the expected NHL numbers are looking pretty solid, as well as a full year of Tyler Ennis, who was an excellent pickup at the deadline last year, and Kyle Turris, who would have been the Oilers' fifth leading scorer, even though he was widely panned in Nashville. But much like a player like Chris Russell or even Jay Beagle, a player you want on your team, just not at that particular price point. So when you have a third line now of Jesse Puljujarvi, Kyle Turris, and Tyler Ennis for under $4.5 million, you have a hard time being upset with that, to have a little bit more balance up and down the Oilers lineup. The addition of Tyson Barrie, who will hopefully make up for a bit of the loss of a player like Oscar Klefbom, a player who's really good when he's not hurt. Man, Klefbom is hurt very often and is a player that you can't really count on anymore. So having a better puck moving capacity from your back end, you have players like Caleb Jones, who will get more time this year. Caleb Jones showed incredibly well anytime he was called upon last season. There just wasn't really a room for him on the Oilers roster at the time. So when you compile all that up together, because of the how to say, what's the polite word, dog shit showing against the Chicago Blackhawks, it's really easy to forget that last year the Oilers were the best team in Canada. Standings wise, they were the best team in Canada. So are there still flaws in that roster? Absolutely. Goaltending last year was not bad. It wasn't great. You're taking a really large risk in a compressed schedule, bringing back a player like Mike Smith, who was, for the month of December, among the worst goalies in hockey, but for the rest of the year was a bit below average. And then just dreadful for the time he showed against Chicago. So you're definitely taking a risk goaltending wise, but do you take 1 year of Mike Smith and Tyson Barrie, or 7 years as was rumored for Jacob Markstrom? I'm going to take a year of Barrie and Mike Smith, who will play less games than he did last year. I'll take a year over the 7x5 that was rumored for Jacob Markstrom, a deal that I'm happy he walked away from to go to the Flames for a 6x6 with a full no move, I will add. Good job, Calgary. That's a 30-year-old goaltender you gave 6x6 to. Have fun.
I thought we were friends, Graham. God, the amount of shit that I take on this podcast, good Lord.
Oh, here comes the hard done by nonsense. Stop it. Stop it.
Wow.
If anybody takes crap on this podcast, it's Chris down in the corner here. Okay?
That's fair. We've spent. This is my first time here. We spent a lot of time shitting on Chris. I'm so sorry. I let you go.
I'm used to it. It's all good.
15 of them. Come on. Anyway, go ahead.
That's what friends do. We shit talk each other.
Oh man. Yeah, I think just a buyer beware on Tyson Barrie. I watched him way too much last year, and he's good on the power play, and that's all he's good at. Honestly, as of right now, he's not good in his defensive zone. When he's in the offensive zone, yes, he's dynamic and he's able to create scoring opportunities, but that's all he is. He's a good first-line power play, third-line defenseman. So,
are we talking Tyson Barrie as of Mike Babcock or Sheldon Keefe? Because those are two very different players.
They were, for sure, because Babcock really didn't give him the time of day, and Sheldon Keefe gave him more leash to run around and do what he does best. And maybe it was just an off year for him, for the fact that starting out with Babcock really hindered his confidence and was not able to really give Toronto fans something to be happy with. And but you know what, like you said before, Graham, a 1 year deal for him, a show me deal at that cap hit. It's a phenomenal signing. So yeah, he'll be great for you if he is put in the right situations.
Yeah, that's a super fair remark. And, you really got to pair a player like that, with someone like a Chris Russell, who is a nightmare offensively, or a player like Adam Larson, who can't hold his own. in the defensive zone, and then just be like, all right, Tyson, you're forward number 4. Have fun.
Exactly.
All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Russell is the right pairing with handedness and everything. I think it makes a lot of sense. With Larson, they're both right shots, so I think you're not going to see that happen.
Fair point.
Chris Russell would be a good one. Yeah, make him. Yeah, you're now just number 4. And go at it. Have fun.
Go with Connor and fly.
Go, little fellow. Run. Be free.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, to me, we can kick around names and pairings and, was that a good signing or not a good signing for, you can go on and on about that. But I want to see how this works out when there's like full team commitment to better defending, including
100%. No question.
So if Dave Tippett can get that through to the Oilers, and I think that last year was a step in the right direction to improving their defensive play as a whole, then those pieces I think are going to look really good back there. One thing I wanted to ask you about though, Graham, is where you're at with Evan Bouchard. Is he ready? Do you think he's going to fit in somewhere down the line? How would he fit in? Because to me, I think he's a key piece for the Oilers moving forward to get a quality defenseman at an entry level deal and be able to make it all fit salary wise.
Oh yeah, and that'll be the key. I mean, really, I'll raise you one more. Evan Bouchard, yeah, absolutely a guy that's his numbers in Skellefteå right now are looking real good, and he's holding his own. His skating does need a little bit of work still, but that's been the story of his whole career at that point. You kind of he's getting a lot better at making plays, sneaky plays with his feet and with the puck, where he's not a transitional player. The real big thing I think you got to look at is Philip Broberg at the moment, as opposed to Evan Bouchard. Evan Bouchard is, by all NHL adjusted numbers at this point, a third pairing NHL defenseman. You don't really need him to be at the moment. Thankfully with a player like Tyson Barrie, you kind of delay that need to move him up to the lineup right now, and you can let him percolate a little bit longer. That being said, you look at a guy like Philip Broberg, who every time he's hit the ice so far looks to be a difference maker for his team, and looked really good, especially in training camp before the bubble got started. So a guy like Evan Bouchard you don't really need at the moment, which is really helpful. That being said, you move forward a year, especially with expansion draft considerations, you can, and this is something that if Caleb Jones continues to show well at, I think you leave Oscar Klefbom unprotected. And if Seattle takes him, great, move up Broberg and move in Bouchard. Tyson Barrie had a 1-year deal. It might not end up being 1 year. It's really important to remember that this is also Adam Larson's last year on the Oilers payroll. And if they choose not to re-sign him, this year could very much come down to who is a better fit for the style of team David Tippett wants to have for that kind of second or third pairing right side defenseman. Is it going to be Barrie or is it going to be Adam Larson? And, making that decision and potentially stepping away from someone like Oscar Klefbom, who by some reports might not even want to come back to hockey. Because he has some pretty serious arthritis in his shoulder that's plagued him for the last number of years. Mm-hmm. So Evan Bouchard is going to be a key point in this team. It terrified me when I heard people saying, well, we can trade him for a forward.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Don't do that. But I think organizationally, I don't think it's crazy to suggest that, Bouchard, for being a blue chip prospect, may have been surpassed by Philip Broberg at this point, who looks by every measure an NHL ready defenseman who can fly. He is really solid defensively, and he's got this 6'5" frame to just knock down pucks and can skate like the wind.
Yeah, look at the way the Oilers defense is set up, and it's set up really well in prep for the Seattle expansion draft.
Oh yeah.
You got Darnell Nurse and to build around. I do think that I do think that after this season they will find a way to extend him past and not let him walk to UFA. I do I don't foresee them letting him walk. But after that, you've got Ethan Bear as well. They haven't signed him yet, but I think he's a very important piece for the Oilers going forwards.
Ethan Bear changed the whole outlook for the Oilers defense. I mean, he was a guy that was a 5th round pick, and had a few years that were in really, his conditioning wasn't great. He was smart with a puck, but he couldn't really skate. And then this year, it's easy to forget with rookies like Hughes and McCarr. Ethan Bear was a rookie defenseman and led in time on ice this year. He is a heck of a looking player. And he made every defenseman he played with demonstrably better. If you want to dive into some of the advanced stats, Darnell Nurse is a better player with Ethan Bear across from him in a defensive pairing.
Yeah, and like I said, with Adam Larson on his last time, I don't think it is necessarily Larson or Barry, because you've got Ethan Bear there, because you've got Evan Bouchard coming up, you've got some good young defensemen that can come up and step into those roles. They've signed Chris Russell to another year. He can play both sides. So I don't necessarily think it's one or the other after this season for the Oilers. But if Klefbom is looking at retirement because of the injuries, then I could definitely see them keeping Tyson Barrie longer term, because he does add the puck moving that they desperately don't. They don't necessarily have a game breaking puck mover when Klefbom's out of the. They didn't have one when Klefbom was out of the lineup. Even with Tyson Barrie.
Even Klefbom, he was never a big puck transitioner. If you want to talk about players that were moving the puck themselves from the defensive zone out, Darnell Nurse was the best skating with the puck from our defensive end. Caleb Jones looks really solid in terms of his ability to do that. He's still 22 years old. Darnell Nurse is a couple years older, a little better at that. Oscar Klefbom's really big ability was always in passing when he wasn't hurt, but as is so often the case with that player, looks good when he's playing. When he's fighting arthritis in his shoulder. Side note: arthritis for a 27-year-old dude. Ow. Fuck, yeah. That sucks.
Yeah.
It's the Oilers. Much has been maligned about the defensive team, or the defensive play of this team. I don't know if it's as bad as you say. It's definitely not like a couple years ago where you could look at the Oilers defensive roster and be like, there's like 2 NHLers there. I think you can look up and down the Oilers defense right now and say, well, it's not incredible. There's not a non-NHL player in the starting six.
I think for me, and what Tyler was getting at though is it's the team defense that the Oilers.
Oh, it's brutal. It's terrible.
And that starts from the top. That starts from Connor and Leon. Those two need to really look back at the stars in the 90s, and specifically Steve Yzerman, and look at, they won when Detroit started winning when Steve Yzerman stopped caring about how many points he got and started caring more about playing a full 200-foot game. And those two are skilled enough that if they are playing full 200-foot games, they're still going to be putting up a lot of points.
Oh yeah, and Leon's defensive lapses have been well noted. The main point to him not being a deserving Hart Award trophy winner, but something I think is important to look at. Leon has the ability to play really good defense. I mean, you look at 5-on-3 situations, it's usually Leon Draisaitl out there, because the Oilers just did not have enough center depth to kind of hold his own in that situation. So, yeah, I don't disagree. There needs to be a little bit more emphasis put on. I think you would look at a player like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who had his best career year from a points total, especially just over a full 82 game season. He's played some really good defensive hockey, which is something that's definitely expanded over the last couple of years of his career. And keep Nuge forever, because he is a integral part to this forward core.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I mean, I thought last year was some progress in terms of team defense, but it really reared its head in the series against Chicago, the inability to hold on to leads. And like the penalty kill was good. It was one of the higher ranked penalty kills throughout the season. That's not so much of a problem for the Oilers. Don't be worried about being in the penalty box. But yeah, being able to lock it down with a lead late in games is still a big flaw there that they've got to overcome. Or all this talk about who you have on your blue line doesn't mean as much.
Yeah, that's really fair. I don't disagree.
I'm not going to say take away the C from Connor McDavid. But I do wonder if there is a way to, I feel like there is no player in the NHL that has more pressure on him to do everything for the Oilers. He's the face of the franchise. He needs to be in the media. He wears the C. He is all of these things. And I don't know if he's necessarily the personality to do all of these things. Is there a way to lessen that and have Nurse, Nugent Hopkins, and some of this other leadership group step up? Because I also think that that's been a bit of a problem with the Oilers too. There's been so much expected of Connor McDavid. Like, he's literally had to carry this franchise on his back.
Would you not expect that of Nathan McKinnon or Sidney Crosby or Austin Matthews? I mean, a little different as far as, but yeah.
McKinnon is not McKinnon is not in a Canadian hockey market where everything is expected of him.
He's not the captain either.
Yeah, that is fair. I mean, Nathan McKinnon did single-handedly drag that team to the playoffs with the worst injuries I think we've seen in a very long time. I'll kind of come at that one twofold. McDavid, I from what we've been able to tell, doesn't seem like the personality to want to take a step back. That hyper competitive, super alpha sort of personality isn't really one that you can be like, all right, buddy, calm down, just take the reins off for a little bit. I don't, again, I'm just a fat guy in a hat and a cardigan. What do I know?
Cardigan though. I got
thanks. It's the Old Navy special. I don't know how you can tell him to not be that. I mean, you could definitely make a case for the fact that the Oilers don't have enough kind of boisterousness in the room. You saw people like say that during the bubble, you could hear different benches. Vegas, very loud. Vancouver, very boisterous. Edmonton was really quiet. And maybe that needs a little bit more life. Maybe that's why it's okay that you retain a player like Mike Smith. But when it comes to kind of pulling back personality, I don't know how you do that. From a broader, more National Hockey League scale, it is criminal the amount that player is under pushed. He should be on every billboard. You want to grow hockey, especially in the States. You need McDavid, you need Pettersson, you need young, exciting, fun stars, and trying to pull them back away is just going to make people care less about hockey. I mean, I don't need to go see Philip Forsberg on an NHL banner somewhere. You still do, inexplicably. And so, that just speaks to a larger, the league needs to market itself better. And McDavid, Matthews, Pettersson, McKinnon need to be at the forefront of making the league a viable entertainment product when there's going to be so little money coming in over the next number of years.
That's a real difficult one because, and I'll give NBC Sports some credit. They, ever since McDavid's been with the Oilers, they've been more willing to show Oilers games, but they just don't move the needle in terms of ratings. So, the more times they put them on, that's great. They pump it up, they promote it, they talk about the guy, but that comes at the expense of other matchups they could show, which generate higher ratings. So it's difficult. If the NHL got McDavid in say Arizona in that draft lottery, that
totally different story.
Different here. Yeah,
100%, no question.
Going back to sort of try what they can do to kind of release some of the pressure off of McDavid, at least internally, because externally, I don't think they have any. There's nothing they can do to change that. He's the best player, arguably the best player in the world right now. And you're not going to be able to take away that pressure externally, but internally, I just did a quick look at looking at their roster, and there's players on the Canucks and the Flames that aren't necessarily stars but are their temperature gauges. They're players that drag the team into a fight when needed.
You at least do not have enough of that.
Yeah, the Flames have an Oilers cast-off in Milan Lucic. The Flames have Sam Bennett. They've got those type of players that can, and Matthew Tkachuk at the top end of the lineup
totally.
that drags the team into the fight. Canucks have JT Miller's really good at that. They've got Antoine Roussel. They've got players like that. When I look at the Oilers, they've got Zach Kassian, and then I don't see another person doing that.
There's two. It's Zach Kassian and Darnell Nurse, and you don't unlock them enough. I think that's, a lot of that is roster construction difficulties. Like you don't have the cap space, and you were so handcuffed by Pete Chiarelli and choices that he made that are still, years after the fact, having a supreme problem with that team. But, that is where I do, wish a little bit more that I hate the phrase intangibles, but I don't think it's unfair to say, look at the Oilers. They have, if Zach Kassian doesn't get going and really pull the team into it, they're relying on a lot of incredible skill to kind of emotionally pull them into something. And it's not there in the same way. And unfortunately, I don't know that that's something you can address immediately. You look at a guy like, potentially Dylan Holloway. You watch when he played for the Okotoks Oilers, he'd just steamroll players and then go score and get a team into it that way. So I think you're definitely kind of hoping that going forward, you have players that can be a little bit more physical to pull them in, but that's not an unfair statement to make at all. And it is one of the flaws of this roster, of which there are several.
One of my favorite players on the Edmonton Oilers is Darnell Nurse. Now, do you think that he gets the proper adequate or just like, is he well known enough around the NHL for how well he plays for you?
I don't know if I can speak to around the NHL. I believe he's not given enough credit in Edmonton. You got to look at a couple things. He doesn't get hurt. He scores in a very good regular pace, and he is very much an anchor and an emotional kind of anchor for this team. In how he is kind of such a core part of that leadership group. I don't believe he gets enough credit that he should. This is dicey. I wouldn't be entirely shocked if it was a Vander Kane and Winnipeg sort of situation that was leading to maybe he doesn't get the respect that he should. But he's such a key part of that team. And if it came down to keeping a player like Oscar Klefbom or Darnell Nurse, for me, it's a no-brainer. You got to keep Darnell Nurse for those things he does bring. Because you put him in another market, and I think it'll become very obvious very quickly what exactly he can bring. Very similar to kind of what Jeff Petrie used to before he was traded for pennies on the dollar many, many years ago.
Yeah, that is going way back. Well, as far as Darnell Nurse getting his due, when Ken Hitchcock was the coach, he certainly mentioned on a few occasions that Nurse was one of his better players. So please Hitch like Darnell.
Can we just stop on the fact that even when he was just like the fill-in coach for the Oilers, he still wore a gray sweater that just said hockey on it? God damn it, I love Hitch.
He should be in broadcasting. He's another guy that we should be hearing every week from. Like, can you imagine Bieksa and Hitchcock on the same panel?
God, they'd punch each other. It'd be amazing.
It would be so fun. It would be so fun. This relates really to the Canucks because Canucks Twitter wants to fire Jim Benning. So because of roster construction.
Some of Canucks Twitter.
That's fucking stupid.
So, from your perspective, as having Ken Holland having to fix roster construction, to put it politely, which was shit. How easy was this? So, how easy is what Ken Holland has to do?
It gets a lot easier next year. Remember Benoit Pouliot? Yeah, he comes off the book next year. Chris Russell's $4 million comes off the book next year. Adam Larson comes off the book next year. If James Neal falls apart, kind of like he did the back half of last season, That's a very buyoutable contract. Again, this was a year ago. How the hell Calgary thinks that's a good move to trade a very movable contract for an immovable anchor, we'll never understand.
Deal for Lucic?
Yeah, insane.
I think Calgary won that trade. I will.
Are you insane?
Oh, here we go.
Are you
tangibly
insane?
I've got popcorn here.
This is one of those moves that is very polarizing. If you're a fan of neither team, it's kind of funny.
You know what I'm going to say, and this might sound insane. I think both teams won. Edmonton just won more because you can buy out that contract. You cannot buy out Milan Lucic.
You can buy Lucic after this next year
and save what, $1 million? It's
$1 million.
It is $1 million, especially in this economy.
Hold on. You buy out Neil, you save 4. So I'll take that.
I'm curious on why. Is that the only reason why you think Edmonton won? Is because the contract is able to be bought out and you're saving more?
I think both teams won. Lucic very much did bring something to the Flames bottom 6 that they did not have. He definitely brings something to that dressing room emotionally that they did not have. And I think he tried to bring that at Edmonton, but it comes to a point where when you're making XYZ dollar, players know who's a player. Like even on a beer league team, people know who is a player and who can do it. And Luch just couldn't, and he was moved up the lineup in a way that became intangible for what he was providing. So when you bring in a player who did score 19 goals until he busted his foot and just kind of disappeared, and became a player who couldn't really skate anymore, that's it's hard to argue with a 20 goal scorer. That brought something to the historically good Edmonton Oilers power play. I don't think that can be understated, but especially going ahead a couple years from now or even next year, the amount you can save and the fact that you do not have to spend a spot on the expansion draft. Like, sure, you can ask Lucic to waive. What if he doesn't want to? Cool. You just lost Oliver Shillington. Good fucking job.
I don't know if Oliver Shillington is a huge loss, though.
Well, who's the bigger player? Who's more important and has more value, Lucic or Shillington? I'm just picking a name out of a hat, but you could lose a Sam Bennett. You could lose. I think Mangiapane will be able to pick. You have to spend a roster spot on him. It could have spent a spot on him that you now have to spend to Lucic. So both teams came out well, but the fact that you can walk away with Neil with little to no penalty, I think is a tremendous win.
See, my argument would be I don't think James Neal was a fit in the Flames dressing room at all. I think he wanted to play with certain players and he didn't get that opportunity. And I think when Lucic got in, Jeff Ward knew how to use Lucic in a way that Lucic would be effective. And he's never been on the top 6. He's not going to be on the top 6. I think he's been a huge help for a guy like Sam Bennett. And he's one of those guys that has been able to drag the Flames into a battle. Can he skate? No, he's slower than me. There's a lot of things that he can't do, but I think what he has brought to the dressing room and to the culture of the Flames, I think the Oilers miss a lot. And I think that James Neal is probably in a better fit in Edmonton than he would be in Calgary because it's just different for him. But I think a lot of the intangibles of what Lucic has, I think, is what the Oilers are missing. And
when you lose a player that can contribute like Sam Bennett, it to me, it's meaningless for all that. You're losing a good player to keep a bad one. And I mean, in fact, James Neal was really good in the playoffs. One of the Oilers' few good players. Like he was on a line with Kara and Chason that for the last 2 games of that series played really well. So I'm also biased. So I think both teams came out of it in the end, but the fact that one has a no move,
players came out better in the end, though, too.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
That's fair.
I felt like that was a move that Calgary was more motivated to make than Edmonton was.
Probably.
So in some regards, not a bad deal for the Oilers. I kind of feel, this is cynical, I kind of feel like Lucic just didn't want to be there in Edmonton anymore. why I don't know. Like it started off well in the playoffs, and then
he was so good that first season.
Yeah,
he was so
and then
good.
just weren't having the success anymore. And then then he comes to Calgary and he talks about the veteran presence in the room and some odd comments there about leadership. And I just, I don't know. I had the impression that Lucic kind of soured on Edmonton all of a sudden, and it's hard to put my finger on why, but I thought he's done reasonably okay with the Flames. But again, you look at the contract and how slow he is, and it leaves lots to be desired.
And as Graham said, the no movement clause.
Yeah,
that's a something I don't think gets talked about enough. I just quickly went on Cap Friendly and went through what potentially the Flames could do, and yeah, they are looking at losing, having to make a decision and potentially losing a Sam Bennett, because they're at this point that's the easiest and most well. It could even be Dylan Dubé. Like they're going to lose.
That would sting.
The Flames are going to lose a really good young player, or a top 6 forward. Defensively, it doesn't help. They've got a decision to make as well. But forward wise, that no movement clause that Lucic has now really hampers them. Because I looked at it. Bennett and Dubé both still need to play games to be eligible to be picked, but it's 8 and 15 games.
Yeah, they'll make their next season. Yeah. And if this next season, for whatever reason, next season doesn't happen, they're going to prorate that. So the Flames are going to lose a good young player, and they're going to unfortunately not be able to protect one. Looks to me, it looks like Sam Bennett and Dylan Dubé. I mean, I'm biased. I will happily dunk on the Flames, but man, that Tkachuk is so good. Tkachuk is so good, and I hate him, and I wish we picked him, but I don't want to be that. I wouldn't want to look at that roster. Like that team's going to be in rough shape for a little while, and it's going to take some work. And I think that Tanev contract's really going to hurt. The Markstrom contract is really going to hurt. I wouldn't want to be a Flames fan.
They're in win now mode. They've got 2 years,
totally
2 to 3 years to make that roster work, and then they're going to have to retool and really hope that some more of those young players step up. But Jacob Pelletier, if they can keep Dylan Dubé from going over to Seattle, then he's going to become a big part of it going forwards, as well as Andrew Mangiapane.
God, Mangiapane's so good.
Yeah, but it's just they've got to find a way to make some noise and actually win a playoff round come in the next couple of years, because I think it's what I said with the Tanev one, the same thing. 2 years and you'll be good for 2 years. After that, it's questionable. With the Markstrom deal, I think it's 3 to 4. Probably more likely 4, and then the final 2 of that is going to be questionable. But goalies are voodoo. You never know what's going to happen. You don't know if he's going to mesh with the system and the goalie coach as well as he did in Vancouver. I'm going to say that with Holtby. Like I know a lot more about the goalie coach with Ian Clark in Vancouver, so I have a lot more faith in that, but you never know. That's just something with goaltenders now, is other than maybe a handful of goaltenders, and that's even being generous. I think it's more like 2 or 3. Sergei Bobrovsky basically broke what I thought what was the top tier, but he goes to Florida and just is horrible. You've got Price, and then
Carter Hart.
Do you have Price though? Do you have Price?
In top end is someone who can step in and change the game. Yeah, he's up there.
Okay, well, all right. Well, wasn't good in the regular season. Wasn't good.
He was overplayed in the regular season and was injured, right? Then he comes back healthy and they beat Pittsburgh. Like he shut down Crosby and Malkin. That's the type of
that was the fear of Pittsburgh, right? Like what happens if we run into Price? Because Carey Price can still be Carey Price, but I mean, all the time, you definitely can't be. I mean, good Lord, you as of next season have what is it? You have $20 million in Josh Anderson, Jacob Allen, and Carey Price. Okay.
Oh yeah. But yeah, going back to the Markstrom and everything, it's just it's going to be interesting. But I think they are in basically a 2-3 year win now window.
Yeah.
To make it happen with this roster, and I know there's a lot of talk about Monahan and Gaudreau. I'm starting to think that's just more speculative rumors than anything else. I don't think Treliving's even shopping them. I think he's trying to pull a Washington Capitals and Tampa Bay Lightning, where you keep your top end players together and try and find the right mix around them.
I'm gonna hot take this like everyone in sports radio that I hate. I think you trade Giordano before Monahan and Gaudreau.
Good luck trading Gio. Who's going to take that contract? Yeah, totally.
Don't protect him. Don't protect him. Let him go.
Exactly.
On the point of the Flames being in win now mode, it's very clear that they felt like they didn't have a clear-cut number one goaltender, and that's why they went out and paid a premium to bring in Jacob Markstrom. I mean, really, between Markstrom and Mika Kiprusoff, has there ever been a clear-cut number one goalie for the Flames?
How dare you spit on the memory of Kerry Ramo?
With all due respect, and then you go ahead and trash the guy right after. So Calgary's paying a price for that.
Yeah,
definitely.
And we'll see if it works out. I know Graham's not a fan of that 6-year term.
I'm just happy we didn't do 7. Holy shit. Oh boy.
6 is like the max. Yeah, 7's way too long. But I do want to say that as far as Lucci's contract goes, that Treliving, no matter what with the roster construction, Treliving's going to be working his ass off trying to figure out exactly what to do. He's always in on everything, and yes, he's the more so the bridesmaid than the bride in those type of deals that you hear about. But I believe in Tree, and I feel like he'll do everything that he can to make sure that he can protect his young players. And I disagree with Sean, surprisingly enough, that he is 100% he's listening in and he's shopping Gaudreau and Monahan. Of course, he's not going to say it, but if you're not doing that, then you aren't doing your job properly, and I believe Tree is.
Well, I'm not saying he's not listening, because I think everyone's going in looking to see if they're available and they can get them, but he's not shopping them.
Well, it's not one or the other. God,
I think it is, Devin. I think Kachuk's untouchable. I think Monahan is maybe potentially quietly being shopped. At least some tire kicking on what the return.
No player should be untouchable, though. I fucking hate that about hockey. Trade anyone if it makes you better.
Yeah. Well, you have to have a vision and direction. If there's no untouchable pieces, how do you have a starting point for what your vision for your team's going to be? That's how I see it.
I think this is all semantics more than anything else. Because it's like I said, I don't think they're untouchable. I'm not saying anything like that. All I'm saying is I don't think I think they're planning to keep them at least for this year.
Yeah,
for sure. And then see where things go. I don't see them looking to make those moves at this point. I think they're expect another jump in production and level of play from Mangiapane will really help the top 6. They've added some good depth pieces.
That's like that Simon signing is a real and the Levo. 2 real crafty signings,
and then they've left the door open to move Lindholm to center, which they really need to do.
Yeah.
So, and that's why they went after players who could play the right side, and specifically Levo, who's a right shot right winger. And I know there's a lot of Canucks fans out there who weren't paying attention to the openings on the Flames. There's a lot more opening on the Flames right side than the Canucks.
Yeah.
The Flames right side, they've got Lindholm is the only real top right shot, top 6 right wing option right now. So bringing it while the Canucks have multiple options that they can throw in there. So it made sense. Levo does have more options to be higher up in the lineup than in Vancouver. But you have that set up. You've got they've brought it. Yeah, you've brought in a bona fide number one goaltender in their mind. And as long as he plays like he did in Vancouver, he is. And I don't see them making a big move unless they fall off when the season starts. They just die. Like I don't see them unless someone comes in with a absolute you cannot refuse offer, which I don't think anyone's really looking to do right now.
I might throw another name just for the hell of it out there, and I want to be hot takey, but I'm trying not to be less hot takey. But what about David Riddick? Is he a trade option?
Oh yeah,
yes. That's not a hot take. That's
he's not a good goalie.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
okay.
Trade the mediocre goaltender. Sure.
Oh man, I disagree. He is a good goaltender. It's just the consistency is not there. When he's on, he's fire, right? And he's able to take over games. But when he's not on, he's absolutely terrible. I agree.
He's the goalie that sullies a shootout win when the goalpost made a couple of the saves.
He can be good, but at the flip of a stick, he can suck. So,
one final thought on Markstrom. That Markstrom deal for Tree Living feels much like this will be the next GM's problem. I'm out. Like,
Sorry, Kev, go for it.
I know it's 6 years. I know it's a lot. I think that they know that going in. I think if they get 4, I think that they're going to be very happy with it. I think he's to me, the way that I look at what the Flames came into last out of the Dallas is I think they felt like they missed an opportunity. They felt that the West was wide open and they had a shot to win it if they got better goaltending from Cam Talbot at the end, and really better goaltending throughout the year. And I think they feel Markstrom solves that window. And I think if they get 4 years out of him, they're great. If the 5 and 6 is a mess, it's a mess. That every team, there isn't really a team right now in the NHL other than Vegas. Well, even Vegas has financial problems, but they somehow are able to get out of it. That every team is going to be in the same bind. So I don't think that they feel any different than anywhere else.
Vegas deserves their problems for those piss poor third jerseys. So they get what they get.
Thank you. That is the second ugliest thing that I've seen other than these Dallas Stars lime green. Like, this is great for laser tag, but we're playing hockey jerseys.
First of all, how dare you?
Man,
how dare you?
So old. Holy.
Those jerseys are awesome. No, the gold ones suck. The Dallas ones are dope.
Yeah, agreed.
Kevin, you were stuck with the blind ref on this one. Like,
well, I mean, you end up blind looking at those things. That's the thing. It's retina damage.
Like watching Dallas.
I mean, you still got to be able to see the infractions as the game goes on. You can't just get mesmerized by those shirts.
I mean, the refs can't see half the game anyways. So what's the point?
Never as well as you do. Hey, Sean.
Come on.
Sean would be a better ref. Yeah. So, Graham, you've talked about the Flames. I'm kind of curious where you're at with the Canucks.
They're so fun. Oh, I hate it. I fucking hate how fun they are. God damn it. Canucks are dope. Like, they're great. Like, all the shitty contracts are going to be gone in the next couple years. Quinn Hughes is the best. He's so fun. Definitely this is a step back year. Kind of take one step backwards for 2 steps forward in a year or so. I think there's a lot of trust being put on Thatcher Demko for 2 really good games. So that's worrisome.
Well, it was 3. I mean, he was good in Game 7 despite the loss as well.
But, that's fair.
But that's
fair.
Boy, is that ever a small sample to be going off of? And I've been consistent on this podcast. Devins is going to mock me for this probably, but I've been consistent on this podcast about going all in on goalies with very small samples.
So
I wouldn't say they're going all in on Demko at all. They've brought in a legit NHL goaltender and someone who has the ability to step up and be a really good starter again.
For sure.
I agree with that,
Holtby
Sean. But I mean, in the midst of it during the bubble, I mean, we had, there was a lot of debate out there about people saying let Markstrom go and go with Demko, and the organization's taken a little more cautious approach than that, clearly, with the Holtby.
But the other thing with Demko is he's been one of the top prospects for years. Yeah. Like, it's not like he's coming. It's not like it was David Rittich coming out of nowhere. He's
getting up there.
Yeah.
So they do have the pedigree's there. It's not like they said but yeah, they made the smart move. They made a smart move in terms of bringing in someone that they can split the load, especially this year, because despite how many games it is, it's going to be a very compressed schedule. So it's going to be I really liked that tandem, because I think you have another year full time with Ian Clark for Thatcher Demko, and then you've got Holtby coming in, who lost his top end goaltending coach after Trotz and Mitch Korn left for the Islanders, and you're seeing the fruits of that labor with Thomas Greiss and Sergei Varlamov. So I like it, and they've still got Mikey DiPietro in the pipeline as well. So because this year is going to be short, it's going to be a sprint. It's going to be a little bit wacky. There was talk, I think there was talk with some fans and some media that the Canucks missed an opportunity to buy out Brandon Sutter because of the Jake Virtanen arbitration case, and I completely disagree, because you're taking away some cap space that you can use, because you're going to use next offseason when you have Pettersson and Hughes, Demko, Adam Gaudette potentially to all sign to longer term deals. Mm-hmm. There's gonna be some. I'll put this out there. There's gonna be one or two teams that you did not see coming that are going to absolutely suck, and as well as surprise, like ridiculously surprised because of the short season. It was the Leafs. The Leafs have always, before they got into the playoffs last few years, they got in on that one-off, the last lockout, because they were always such a strong starting team. Mm-hmm. Someone's going to get off to a really strong start, and we saw with in a shorter season, I think you can rely on your top end skill a lot more. So with the Canucks top end skill, I think despite the holes in their lineup, which every team has holes at this point, they've got the top end skill to be able to, yes, it's going to be a quote unquote step back, but they're still going to be in the fight for the playoffs, if not a division title, in my opinion, which is whatever the division looks like, whether it's the Pacific or it's the all Canadian division. I think, because if it's an all Canadian division, it's going to be an absolute war.
It's going to be awesome. It could be the only two teams, like the only bad team is Ottawa, and they're going to be awesome in 3 years.
Yeah, I'd even give them a bit of a chance, not in terms of, okay, for sure in the playoffs level of chance, but I think they're going to be decent this year. I mean, they've been pretty aggressive in making some moves, and the prospect pool looks good there. I don't say we write off Ottawa right this second here. All Canadian division. I don't know. I think that's going to be kind of cool at first, but the novelty could wear off there pretty quick if you're just playing the same six.
When I'd be all on board for saying Ottawa could be one of those surprise teams, but when you've got a defense that has Eric Branson and Nikita Zaitsev,
this is a personal gripe.
I know you can play Thomas Chabot 35-40 minutes a game, but
just keep running them out there.
This is a personal gripe thing because I play a lot of Chell, but Nikita Zaitsev is rated as an 82, and that breaks my goddamn brain. And I don't understand. Understand. Yeah, man, I really like the Canucks. I know I shouldn't, but all the players I can't stand are gone. So Kessler's not there anymore.
We'll just have to give you some new ones to not be able to stand.
Well, but Besser is so charming. He's fine.
You like the flow too, don't you?
He's very handsome. I'll say that.
Yeah,
No,
he
like the Canucks are in really good shape. Like, yeah, they step back this year for sure, but a lot of cap space opens up the next little while. Players get another year into them. Quinn Hughes is all world good. Like, he is so fun to watch. And you got Podkolzin just down like a couple years away.
And Hoglander too.
Yeah,
And
Nils
Hoglander.
Hoglander coming. Yeah.
Like, while you have a team that's in a really good shape right now. So I would love to sit here as an Oilers fan and be like, man, Canucks are garbage. They're not. They're very fun. And I think Jim Benning has been very shrewd.
Well, definitely this offseason, very shrewd. Yeah.
And lucky. Yeah,
And lucky for sure.
Having Nate Schmidt handed to him on a platter for a third round was
What a gift that is.
No
Yeah.
kidding.
Why is Vegas doing that in the division? Fuck, because they're not in the division. You're in our division. Fuck. Sorry, I'm fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, Canucks are in really good shape, and my biggest fear with that team is, to be honest, the Aquilinis being like, all right, start giving big money to free agents. That'd be my big fear, is that they want to immediately go for it.
But here's the thing: people forget now. It's different with the salary cap. You've got to be more careful about how you use the dollars. But I mean, the great organizations in other places and in other sports. I mean, their owners, they want to sign everybody. They I mean, you look at the Ilitch family. I mean, they wanted to throw money at everybody in Detroit, and that was money well spent in their case back in the day. Other teams have not spent so wisely, but I don't know. I'm never going to fault the Aquilinis for wanting to spend to the cap. I think that's all that you can ask for as a fan out of an ownership group, is to not run the team on a budget like, let's say, Ottawa is doing. That just aggravates, right?
Oh yeah, and I don't mean there's a negative to spending to the cap. I think it's a negative of chasing after bad money.
Yeah.
Next year, whoever signs Taylor Hall is probably really going to regret that. You're going to, my biggest worry is that, the Aquilinis try to really push for something big now to kind of get that immediate financial hit in a post-pandemic world that could end up harming the team in the long term. So like, that's a really good place to be, where you're worried about your owner wanting to win immediately. So I would love to sit here and shit on the Canucks. I can't. They look really fun, and Braden Holtby with a good goalie coach, might be able to pull it back together, because he's had a rough couple of years. But apparently he just straight up didn't want to come to Edmonton and Calgary, which I think is like, kind of fair for a kid from Lloydminster. That's a lot of gunk to throw on your plate. I don't blame you.
I mean, Holtby's got a Stanley Cup ring, to his credit already. So, he's looking at other things, probably, living situation. Vancouver's obviously a very nice city. The dynamic sort of grooming Thatcher Demko seemed to appeal to him as well. So, I mean, I think it's a good fit for him, and a great signing for the Canucks as well. We'll just see, is Holtby on the decline, or is he going to be able to kind of get his game back with Ian Clark?
Yeah, and that's the other thing for the immediate future. So, I think for the Canucks this year, the story is, like I said earlier, steps forward.
Fair. I just quickly to Taylor Hall. This will be one of my hotter takes. I think Taylor Hall is going to live in a career of 1-year contracts. I think that is entirely possible that he's never going to get that long-term deal.
That'd be awesome. That'd be so much fun. Just have him go shred for a year and then move on, like the littlest hobo with a hockey stick. Fuck yeah, give me that all day.
He'll just be chasing a cup like Hossa did, and I think eventually he could get it.
Yeah,
I can see Taylor Hall being the next Marian Hossa.
Yeah.
So then why did he choose Buffalo?
Hey man, cheap rent, and you get to play with Jack Eichel. Go nuts.
Yeah, totally.
I know why. It makes sense that they offered him the $8 million he was looking for, and it was 1 year, and he's going to cash in next year.
I also think the past history with Ralph Kruger there in Edmonton had some appeal to him.
Yeah.
You talk about a team that in a shortened season could surprise.
That's one. Yeah.
That is absolutely one. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, let's get into some real fun stuff here. So the Arizona Coyotes drafted a player in the 4th round that 3 weeks ago nobody really gave a rat's hill about. It was just a draft pick. You pick Mitchell Miller. you move on. An journalism, some great journalism was done. Mitchell Miller is now no longer an Arizona Coyote. He's no longer with the University of North Dakota because he bullied Isaiah. He bullied Isaiah.
Let's not use the phrase bullying here. For bullying, I think it infantilizes what was years of systemic abuse.
Okay, we'll use this abused Isaiah. And now he's off everything. And the Coyotes renounced him. The University of North Dakota has renounced him. His hockey career basically is over. So I want to start with the question around Miller, and then I do want to have a question about Isaiah here. So I want to start with the question around Mitchell Miller is, if this was a prospect higher than the 4th round, a high-level prospect, and I'll throw a name. If this was Alexis Lafreniere that we found out about, what would the NHL have done?
They'd be a lot more willing to work with the player to make it so that to work with the player on this. But with Mitchell Miller and it's just it got to a point where it wasn't worth the working with him to make it to. He's no longer he's no longer with the Coyotes. He's no longer with playing with the North Dakota hockey team. He's still going to North Dakota University, but he's no longer on the hockey team. So I think it's literally it's literally just the appetite to work with the player to fix to try and quote unquote fix the problem, even if it's the right move. What would not be to. I think it's the higher profile the player, the more willing they are to try and quote unquote fix the issue, even though I don't know if that's the right wording at all.
To piggyback off of Sean's point, I also heard that apparently the judge that resided over this case even said, like, it looks like you're not even remorseful, that you're only sorry that you got caught. So I think it's that sort of attitude playing into what Sean just said, that, the teams did not really have any appetite in even just working with him to try and make something out of this. But I think he kind of is deserving what he is getting now.
Yeah, and I think it's also fair to point that his draft stock did take a hit. You look at his production, he projects as a mid-second rounder to a very early second rounder. Tremendously talented hockey player, but the failing here goes as far back as UND, seeing that this would have been on his record when he signed his academic scholarship, whenever it would have been at 17. This was on his record, and according to Isaiah's mother, it continued for 2 years after that. And like Chris had said, there was nothing, there was no remorse and no wish to end it. So his draft stock did take a hit, but I would imagine that the Arizona Coyotes, having been so royally fucked by John Chayka's decision making, losing their draft picks for the prospects early testing, having traded away many of them, they didn't have a pick for a number, like a high-end pick. And I would imagine they looked at the system and said, this is the most talented player we can get at a 4th round. Let's take a swing and hope no one notices. But some really quality reporting brought this info out, and they shouldn't have drafted him. He shouldn't have been given an academic scholar or an athletic scholarship from UND. He shouldn't have had it.
This is going to be another example now of how sports teams do their vetting process. Like they get them down in the interview room and they say, is there anything we should know? And the answer comes back, nope, we're good. But that's just not sufficient. Now, I don't know what their vetting process was, but obviously
they knew. The agent told them. The agent told the whole league.
Well, the agent sent out a letter to every single NHL team and said this happened.
Yeah, and what level of detail though?
That's fair. That's
The
fair.
sad thing is he didn't even send an apology letter to the kid he abused. He only
like
sent out those
I
letters
get
to
the
the other
feeling
teams.
like more of the detail came out in the reporting than the vetting process did, right? Because it looks good in the vetting process. Like, okay, we're getting in front of it. We're full disclosure, but just you're still making the sales pitch at the same time. I don't know. I mean, there was some kind of breakdown there because clearly, if they knew how the public would react to it today, they wouldn't have made the move. Right now, they're like they've renounced or given up the rights to the player or whatever the term is. I think basically because of public pressure. I think Chris kind of
No question
to that earlier.
Now there was this isn't an excuse or anything, but there's definitely some breakdown in communication from what in the Coyotes front office with the scouts and then new GM Bill Armstrong. Because Bill Armstrong was hired when he wasn't able to do anything with the draft. That's part.
Yeah, that was a part of the signed agreement when he came over from
Yeah.
St. Louis, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes. So he wasn't allowed to be part of it. So whatever happened, there was a massive miscommunication on how bad this was, because and unfortunately, it happened. I know there was a lot of teams that had him on no draft list, but as well as even the internet scouts knew about it, but and took him off their lists. But that raises another point for me is why did it take 3 weeks after the draft for this to come to light when people knew about it and removed them from their lists? And these are public lists that are done by people who scout and aren't privy to NDAs for the franchises. They're not linked to any franchise. I'm talking about the Elite Prospects .com of the world and others. They apparently knew, but why wasn't this brought forward? But because I that's one question I don't know if there's a good answer to, because it bugs me, because as Graham said, he shouldn't have been drafted. He shouldn't have been given an athletic scholarship to UND, and everything that I heard about this story, it really frustrated me, because I understand that there's frustrations with the quote unquote cancel culture, but this one isn't it. It's not even close to it. This is something that yes, it happened 4 years ago, but when you have an act this bad, you need to go above and beyond to show that you've learned and you've evolved and grown from the person that you were 4 years ago. And everything that I've heard about this sounds like Mitchell Miller has not, and he's scarred a person for life, a family for life, and it's to a point where, like, how did this get through the cracks, not only in the Arizona situation, but as well as how did it get through the cracks in terms of the reporters and the public internet scouts, that this should have been brought to light a lot earlier in this process, in my opinion.
And
absolutely.
You go ahead, Kevin.
It's disgusting. Isaiah's mom is getting death threats now as well, from random people. So that Sean is 100% right. If this was brought up earlier, he shouldn't have been drafted, and it would have saved a lot of hardship. Because I mean, obviously, what he did was complete bullshit. And you know what? On the opposite end of this, it's kind of, how do I say this properly? Not as publicized as this is for Mitchell Miller. I hope it's fucking embarrassing, and I hope it's to a point where he needs that this is the reality check for this person, this human being, to look in the mirror and own up to his shit. And if it's not, then that's on him. But yeah, my heart goes out to Isaiah's family and what they're dealing with right now, because this could have been totally avoided.
And for me too, before anyone else jumps in, I was just going to say, there on Twitter, every single draft pick, there was a tweet about from somebody, no matter who it was, every single one. And if people knew this about Mitchell Miller and didn't say anything, I'm sorry, coming back and saying I didn't have him on my draft board, give me an applause. I'm not giving you a fuck all. You said nothing at the time, and you're doing it because it's trendy. It's bullshit. It's absolute fucking bullshit, and I'm not applauding you for it. You should have said it at the time. You said fuck all. Don't applaud yourself.
Anyone else?
Well said, Kev.
Yeah.
What now? Let's talk about. I forgot his name as I was going through this. I want to make sure that because one of the things that is also really frustrating me is the line "bullied black kid 4 years ago" as a headline. Holy shit! Can we stop that? Like, his name is.
That's a choice. That's a Isaiah Meyer Crothers.
Crothers. Thank you. What can the NHL do to support Isaiah Meyer Crothers? I don't know if he's playing hockey anymore. I don't know if he wants to play hockey anymore. But I think through all of this, and the fact that the other thing that also bothered me is the Arizona Coyotes never even they knew about this, and they never went to to Isaiah's family, and asked about this.
An apology to the family is very deserved. I mean, they did drag this young man through another set of trauma. Having to kind of relive a lot of this through the media. I think that deserves an apology. Absolutely. As for the National Hockey League, they do need to, I would hope, make a statement in how they want to vet players and furthermore improve the fact they're a culture and a community of inclusivity in ways that haven't necessarily been shown in different ways. So having a vocal statement about that, I would hope that the Coyotes would apologize and provide this young man with potentially some sort of a bursary, to cover some post-secondary schooling, as well as any therapies that they would have had to do. Because just the act of having to relive through the trauma once again I don't know if it's something that can be understated.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I really do hope that they find a way to do that, because it would go a long way to show that to show the remorse of what they, like you said, they dragged him through it again. So, and his family too. So it's something needs to be done. I agree with Graham in that makes a lot of sense.
Hopefully even Akeem Alou, Matt Dumba, the Black Diversity Alliance, maybe they reach out as well in some way. But yeah, I hope I hope the Meyer Crothers family gets support. I hope Isaiah gets some support from the NHL at the very least. Anything else on that? Covered it succinctly.
Okay. I think so.
All right. I know that this is going to be one of Sean's favorite topics. The OHL is coming back in February. They have announced a shortened season. The OHL is facing this dilemma, despite the fact that the Ontario government has decided that if you play, you're not going to have any body checking. I'm going to let Sean have the floor first, and I'm going to see where everybody else.
I'm so excited.
We thought we needed popcorn before. We need it now.
Maybe we should take a station break and come back here. Get them really wound up.
We pause now for station identification.
This might be right the time right now.
It makes absolute no sense. One, the OJHL, the Ontario Junior Hockey League, Junior A, is playing with full contact. No issues with that. And they're allowing that happen. But for some reason, the OHL cannot. And under the guise that it helps mitigate COVID-19 transmission, it does not. Do you watch hockey? Do you watch how close players get on the ice, let alone on the bench? Like, let's look at how hockey starts. Let's look at the face-off and how close these players get with their faces.
Yeah, you give your opponent a good luck, good game kiss, and then you play hockey. That's how I was raised as a rural Albertan.
Exactly. So the fact that this is a full on, just not someone pulling some sort of power move, thinking that, trying to show that they're doing something, even though it does nothing. And then you're ruining the development of kids, the enjoyment of hockey for kids, let alone not even people, the ones that are playing, but the kids that go and watch the game. And but let's look at the development. You're going to completely change the development of every kid playing in the OHL. The game, a non-hitting game, completely changes how you strategically defend and how you strategically attack. Because if you don't have the threat of the hit, you don't have the threat of any body contact, you can run around and with stick handle through however many players without worrying about having someone come in and just knock you off the puck. And it's completely changes the game, and it's doing it for a reason that doesn't actually do anything. Yeah. And you're also still allowing allowing players to play in the OJHL now that have been allowed to play at proper rules. And it just makes no sense. I mean, like, I've seen everyone's going out, like, it's the sport minister Lisa McLeod in Ontario that is mandating this, and like, she's getting just absolutely lit up by everyone from Darren Dreger to even the Bob father himself, Bob McKenzie, is going after her because
he's just wasted hurling margaritas, just flinging emotional margaritas.
Yeah.
Because it makes no sense. Like I said, the face-off, you've got the kids on the players on the bench, you've got all the scrums in the corner, even if there's not body checking. You've got everything in front of the net. Like, how many scrums in front of the net have we seen where, like, everyone's here, there, and there? The face washing, because that's not body checking. That's still quote unquote allowed.
Yeah.
It screams of someone who's of bullshit politics, ruining something that for a reason that doesn't actually do anything. It is window dressing that doesn't change anything in terms of COVID-19 transmission. Nothing. It's like saying that it would be like mandating wearing a mask just over your nose. Like, that's literally what it is.
The old dick nose.
Yeah. But yeah, like, that's literally what it is. It does not actually do anything, because there's still way too many other ways that it can transmit and it can spread. If you're that worried about the transmission of COVID-19, then don't play. Just tell them they can't play. I think that would suck. Ding, ding. That would suck, but it would be a lot more controversial than absolutely changing a core piece of what hockey is.
To me, this is another illustration of public entities trying to implement half-baked ideas to look like they are still allowing sports to happen and not being overly draconian, but at the same time looking like they're doing something about trying to control COVID-19. A couple of the points Sean made, like, I think being on the players' bench is where you really have the problems. I mean, everybody's jammed in there; they're talking to each other in close confines. I think that's more of an issue, even though it's amongst the same team. I think that's more of a problem than what happens on the ice. I mean, how do you regulate body contact? You put them in bubble wrap? Like, I mean, at what point do we say, like, just you either got to let them play or shut it down. I think is what it comes down to here, or you do it in a bubble like the NHL did. But I don't get it either. Now, no, it's not like hockey nowadays is 50,000 hits a game. So how many? How much are they actually trying to reduce? With that rule in place, like I don't know. It just speaks to how public entities are kind of, in a lot of ways, guessing their way through the pandemic. They're not really sure what to do.
It's performative.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're going to throw them in Russian cosmonaut helmets, fuck off and let them play, or shut the whole thing down.
Yeah, I just the half-baked approach to it is what bugs me.
If you're changing the rules that make it not hockey, yes, there's non-contact hockey and women play non-contact hockey, but it's a completely different game. It's the same sport, it's a different game because it completely changes the strategy and tactics. And if they're going to play, if it's going to be one season, you're completely changing how these kids are developing into what could be professional careers.
From firsthand perspective here, back when I played AAA in Bantam, I played Haley Wickenheiser's team as a exhibition game, and that.
Please tell me they just shredded you.
Oh, they are good. Holy, they are so good. But we actually won, no big deal. But like Sean's point is 100% on, because that game, the tactics that we used, the strategy that we had going to that game is completely different from anything else that we played. And I remember playing the game after that. It took half a period to kind of adjust back to that mentality that we could hit and that we could play the game the right way. And the sad thing about it is that I don't think, even with all this backlash, the government, Ontario government, is not going to redact this, as it's not going to go back to and say, okay, well, we screwed up, because that's just egotistical politic bullshit. So it's unfortunate, and I would assume that everybody else would agree 100% with this within the group. So it's sad. It's unfortunate.
Yep. I think we're all in agreement that you should either just let them play or shut it down.
I could
remember having this discussion when the NHL was coming back too. Like, people are like, "Oh, do you get rid of that?" I'm like, no, like, watch a game. Like, there's so many other ways that this would transmit. There,
if you're executing a good body check, it is shoulder to shoulder or shoulder to chest if the other player is horribly out of position. If you gotta scrum in the corner, like just a puck battle on a forecheck, if you're talking about transmission, is so much more dangerous. Like, than a shoulder-to-shoulder contact if you're doing it properly.
Yeah, if they want to show that they're taking things serious, I mean, look, there's a lot of spitting that happens in sports, not at other players or whatever, but there's just in general, there's a lot of spitting that goes on during the playing of sports. Like, if they really want to send a message, just come out with a rule around a huge fine or suspension or something like that to really pour some cold water on the idea and let everybody know that you're taking the whole transmission of the virus thing seriously. But to alter the playing rules in a way that's not actually going to help stop the transmission of COVID-19 just is silly. I mean, I can't really add anything more to what Sean's already gone on about.
It's also an attempt to make a rule that doesn't cost money. That's the other thing. Because there is a really good solution to this. Bauer makes a face shield, a full face shield bubble with an additional shield at the bottom that covers for transmission. And I think Hockey Canada I believe, I may be wrong on this, but I believe they made a mandate that they have to wear that. Or if not, they should, because that would help stop a lot of it. It's literally your normal bubble, and then they've added another shield inside that's a little more breathable, so you don't have the fogging up issue, but it still stops the droplets.
It's just it's just an attachment that goes inside their already pre-made mask. Yeah, it just looks like a shield with an extra level on it. So
yeah, and Matt, like literally just make the players wear that. That goes a lot more of in stopping transmission than this half-assed bullshit. Get rid of body checking when there is so much more body contact and close contact in hockey than just body checking.
I think the other thing that's really bothering me about this is the Ontario government never communicated with the OHL about this. They just said,
"Are you saying the Ontario government is bad at something?"
I know this is. I got to get my free. I got the sound for this. I'll have to just pull it up. Just give me a moment here. But yes, I'm. Hang on here. Oops. There's a whole. But
also, yeah, the shield itself is less than $30,
mm-hmm.
and it's an attachment that goes inside your helmet.
Like I could see a number of players saying, you know what, I'm not okay. You can play, you can have your season, but I'm not playing this way. I'm either going to go to college, or I'm going to find my way under the WHL or in the queue and see if I can make it there.
They'll go over to Europe. We're already seeing some players do that. If the OHL is still playing under the standard rules, then they'll go play in the OHL. They can't go to college. The NCAA rules are weird in that aspect. As soon as you play junior hockey, you can't play NCAA. I know that what's it called now? U Sports, CIS,
U Sports.
They're not doing anything. So it's literally they're going to go to Europe, or they're going to find another league that actually allows them to do it. So it's just there. If this goes through, we're going to see a lot of players who have already gone over to keep playing hockey to not come back, and others to join.
Breaking news.
The Ontario government is bad at something. There. Yeah, it's bizarre to me. I'll be really interested to see what happens going forward, because I could see the OHL saying, "Screw it, we're not playing." Oh, look who's here! Hello.
Hey, Heidi.
We're making a surprise line change, even though no one's changing. But
we pulled the goalie.
Your attacker's on the ice.
Yeah.
Have you been listening?
Keep talking. Don't worry about me. I'm just hanging out.
Okay.
It's nice to have another dirty Alberta hockey fan in the same blob.
Yeah, you missed all of us trashing the Flames.
Oh,
it was very fun.
I was 10 feet away. I heard all of it. So.
Devin was on an island.
I was. It's hard. Heidi, I need you here.
Well, hopefully I will stop working on Saturdays and I can actually join now.
That'd be nice.
That'd be great. Now the final topic, I think. Is there anything else? Do we want to talk about the World Juniors?
Sure.
I think we might have to save that for next week there, Kevin.
Yeah, that's a long one.
Yeah.
Sorry, I talk a lot.
Oh, we go forever, man.
Yeah,
Oof.
you haven't seen the length of our episodes, have you?
This is not
last week was almost 2.5 hours.
Oh,
I don't even know where we're at now.
yeah, we're running close to 2 here now. So
okay. Anything else quickly we want to touch on?
Well, what do you have any thoughts on Graham's thoughts about the Flames they're hiding?
Okay, wait. I gotta run through everything I heard. Graham's just jealous that he didn't get Markstrom.
Don't give a shit. He's gonna be terrible.
That's what you hope.
I agree with you guys about the whole Joey Moss Hall of Fame thing. Obviously, I'm the same with that whole drafty. The name's not coming to me here, but that whole idea with the
shitty
Mitchell
kid.
Miller.
Isaiah, yeah, that whole thing. Obviously, agree with all that. Yeah, it's October, and I wish I could be watching hockey. And yeah, the fact that me and Sean watched soccer this morning and we watch soccer now and watch wrestling instead of watching hockey.
Yeah, because wrestling's awesome. Of course, you watch wrestling. Wrestling's dope.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're being serious or sarcastic there.
No, dude, I was watching AEW earlier this week, and they had a guy like bring out a giant bag of dice from Dungeons and Dragons and like pour it on the mat, and then throw a dude down on top of it. It was amazing. Wrestling's fantastic.
Yeah. I'm like full in on it now. Sean's got me. I watched it as a kid, and then Sean's got me watching it again, and it's great. We joke with Kevin sometimes about how we should like start an offshoot of a wrestling podcast.
Here, before we wrap up, I will say something good about the Flames and not just roundly shit on them. The decision to get rid of those god-awful Black Sea, Alberta and Canada flag jerseys is the best thing the franchise has ever done. The retro jerseys is great.
Mhm.
Now bring Black Blasty, you goddamn cowards.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Is it Blasty? Blasty!
Oh boy.
Not even gonna touch that.
No.
Yeah, Sean and Chris hate Blasty.
Blasty's
Well,
awesome.
okay, I am going to touch that one. I believe it was Stobert over there that said that Blasty was the Eric Francis of mascots. Is that correct? Do I have that?
No,
right?
but Eric Francis is a trash person.
Because that's because he's the most controversial. That's why. That's
No,
Yes,
because his
okay.
spine is because his fucking spine does this carrying water for the organization.
yeah.
Just
it's
wanted to
more of
point
a
that out.
controversial thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, all right. If we're on that, Kevin has this really interesting idea that the Flames need a new mascot.
Yes.
Oh,
Well, you're reaching
Thank
again,
you.
Kev?
Thank you. This is look. All I'm saying.
My mascots need abs, god damn it.
This is the Blasty. This is what I said: is if you're not bringing back Blasty in uniform, bring back Blasty as a mascot. You don't even necessarily need to get rid of Harvey the Hound, although, you know what? Maybe I'll say it. I think that there is a legitimate argument to move it to a new mascot. It did help the Flyers. Look at Gritty.
Their last mascot was this horror show Slapshot, though, from the 70s.
Yeah, it's pretty
With a
bad.
severe back problem, according to Jay Onright.
The current
Don't get rid of Harvey. Yes.
tongue
But,
pool.
Graham, would you support getting rid of Harvey?
No, I like to shit on mascots because they're fun. Like I have a Gritty sticker on my fucking kayak. Like I can't talk. Like I love mascots.
Yeah.
No, ever
Like,
since Mac T pulled the tongue out of Harvey,
So
I
good.
think it was cemented forever.
No, like I like making fun of Harvey because dogs shouldn't wear hats. But again, my team's mascot is a monster from an 80s horror movie, inexplicably with abs, and I love that shittiness about him.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, Kevin, is all Calgary, all the mascots for the Calgary teams, dogs, or like except for the Roughnecks, they've got a
No,
honey
the
badger.
Roughnecks are good. They got Howie the Honey Badger. Again, doesn't make sense, but sure.
Is the dog still around?
What?
Yeah, Ralph the dog fucking sucks. What a stupid mascot he is.
The double E football.
Oh, he sucks too. Fuck punter. It's fine.
I think we can all agree and leave it off on this point that the Incredible Volk was the best mascot.
And now you're just spitting on the memory of Scorch, the mascot that murdered firefighters.
I was gonna say.
I'm going to say there's no better mascot in sports than the Philly Fanatic.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
No,
Gritty's getting up there.
Oh no! What
Once
about the Stanford? What about the Stanford tree? It's just a frat boy in a tree costume. It's awesome.
That would be one of my reasons I would want to go to Stanford. I'll just do it. Just,
Sorry, sports costumes and mascots are like my two. That's my kink. Just so we're clear.
So next week, talking about that. Also, I want to do. We're going to do this. We'll have it preview. We're going to do our top 5 all-time Canucks and our top 5 all-time Flames, and maybe a couple of other all-time movers back.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a discussion around how. No, I'll leave that. We'll
I guess for Graham, this all came out with the NHL.com did a top 5 Canucks, and it became a Linden versus Naslund debate.
Ooh, that's good though. That's good.
Yeah, and whether or not, like, if you look at purely numbers and analytics, it's Naslund. But is sports all about numbers, analytics, and pulling your pitcher after 73 pitches in the clinching game of the World Series?
Oh, so bad.
Professional sports history.
Or do you have to have emotion and everything like that involved? And I think that's a great debate, because
that'll be a fun one.
Sports is not math.
No, but there is. I would make some argument. I'll make some arguments for Naslund. I'll leave them, and I'll make some arguments for Naslund next week that are not necessarily analytical, that I do think make the argument for. I do have the argument for Naslund.
He was the cover athlete of the single best NHL game of all time with the best soundtrack. So
that was 2003.
Might have been. It was either 3 or 4, but it had Franz Ferdinand's "Take Me Out" like before that band was a thing, and that was like best soundtrack. Period.
That was that is the best year of sports games ever. That was the best Madden year. Madden 04, if you play that. No.
Yeah, Michael Vick. People only think that's a good one because Michael Vick was a cheat code, though, just like Roenick was on 94. Like,
there was other reasons.
NHL 2005 had Naslund on the cover.
Was it 05? Franz Ferdinand was on the soundtrack, and it was great.
Yes, I remember that.
And sidebar, that's one of my favorite band names.
So good. Also great at starting wars.
Exactly. That's why it's one of my favorite band names. The reference is just great.
Guys, this was super fun. Thank you so much for having me on to talk dumb sports puck.
Thank you.
Right on.
Yes.
You're welcome anytime, Graham.
I disagree. You're gonna have to pound sand or something. I don't know. Some of your takes are completely outlandish, but you look like a beautiful human being. So
I was gonna say you're so handsome. You could you're so handsome. You could tell me anything, and I'd be like, sure, Devin.
Well, I mean, great.
How do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
I'm at Hyde Mazeballs everywhere on social media.
I'm
at Schneid's on most social media.
All right, one at a time.
Go ahead, Chris.
I didn't hear anyone else talk, but okay. I'm at Schneid's on all social media as well.
And I'm on Twitter at TNoble, TNOBLE.
Chris's timing is impeccable always.
And you're always cutting me off. I'm at Gordhouse09 on Twitter. Thank you, Sean.
I am KVOLE, podcast_hockey on social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube. Subscribe. Thanks, everyone. We will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now. Okay. Facebook first.
My bad, Tyler. I legitimately did not hear you.
We always go in the same order, and then all of a sudden you're antsy. But anyway, that's okay. It's all good, Chris.
I was going to say, we do actually have an order.
Yes.
You?
I don't recall it being like an explicit order, but